Shanann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring her back.
That's it. I can take that mic off you.
Hey there, YouTubers! I'm going to do some commentation on an interview that Chris Watts gave a news station back in 2018. Some of you might already be familiar with this case, but just in case you're drawing blanks, Chris's pregnant wife Shanann and their 2 young daughters Bella and Celeste mysteriously disappear in the early morning hours of Monday, August 13th, 2018. No one had any idea where they were. Despite repeated calls and texts from concerned family and friends, Shanann never contacts anyone back. Anyone that knew her knew how heavy her presence was on social media, and the fact that she was radio silent was truly bizarre. The police searched the house and canvassed the neighborhood, speaking to neighbors and passing out flyers all over the city, but no one had seen them. She and the girls were also featured on many of the local news stations, but it didn't take long for the story to go national. The next day, Tuesday, the Denver 7 news crew comes out to interview Chris about the disappearance of his family. Most people would expect to see a husband and a father in these circumstances to be quite emotional, perhaps even anxious, worried, or angry at the possibility of foul play. What this news crew captured was quite the opposite, though. When you are guilty of doing something horrifically heinous, it's no easy task to convincingly fake concern that an innocent person would have no problem expressing. And that is exactly what is on full display in this interview. Someone who fails to convince. Chris was not the doting husband and father that most people believed him to be. He is what psychologists call a family annihilator. Just the day before, he murdered pregnant Shanann and their 2 girls. An affair that he was having with a co-worker appears to be the catalyst that would start the chain of events that would end in their murders. He buried Shanann in the dirt of a shallow grave, and he stuffed his little girls down into 2 large oil tanks. He knows his family is never coming back. No one knew any of this at the time, of course, so keep this information in mind as you watch this interview.
Wow. What's going on right now around your house?
Right now, you got K9 units, the sheriff's department. Everybody's like they're doing their best right now to figure out like if they can get a scent, see where they went. If they went on foot, they went in a car, or they went somewhere. And right now it's just like they've been on point. They're going through the house trying to get a scent, and hopefully they can pick something up to where it's going to lead to something.
He talks about the police dogs hopefully getting a scent twice. Liars will often repeat themselves as a way of remembering details of the story that they have crafted together. During most of this interview, you will see that he stands in a defensive posture with his arms folded.
What happened? Your wife came home. Tell me what's...
She came home from the airport 2 a.m. and I left around 5:15. She was still here. And like about 12:10 in that afternoon, her friend Nicole showed up at the door. Like I had texted Shanann a few times that day, called her, say, but she never got back to me, but she wasn't getting back to any of her people as well. And that's what really concerned a lot of people, is like, if she's not getting back to her, like if she doesn't get back to me, that's fine, like she gets busy during the day, but she didn't get back to her people, which was very concerning. And Nicole called me when she was at the door, and that's when I came home.
Nicole Atkinson is one of Shanann's friends who had been trying to get a hold of her. She knew Shanann had a pregnancy doctor appointment that Monday morning, so she calls the doctor's office but finds out that Shanann never showed. Worried that her friend could be hurt and could possibly need help, Nicole hurries over to Shanann and Chris's house, but no one answers the door. She sees that Shanann's car is in the garage, and the shoes that she wears every day are sitting by the front door. And the fact that the house is eerily silent, her concern only intensifies. That's when Nicole calls Chris. He tries to dismiss her concerns by telling her that Shanann and the girls were on a playdate, but Nicole knew better. Chris did not want to get the police involved, but Nicole had the good sense to contact them anyhow. An officer meets Nicole outside of the Watts home before Chris arrives, and he looks through various windows all around the home but can see nothing concerning. Nicole is a true friend. She recognized the seriousness of the situation, and her call to 911 ensured that Chris wouldn't get the chance to clean up or get rid of any evidence that he may have left behind in the house that morning. I believe that he would have been caught at some point because of how sloppy he was, but that action by Nicole helped expedite that process. You see, he had to get himself to work soon after murdering Shanann. He couldn't be late as he didn't want anything appearing out of the ordinary, so there was no time for him to clean up before leaving. He most likely thought that he'd have at least 1 or 2 days to clean up and destroy any and all evidence before anyone had the chance to realize that they were missing. Nicole and the officer speak to Chris during various points of his drive home from work. It's at this time that Nicole starts to become suspicious of Chris, because why wouldn't he just have the officer that's already there at the house kick in the door to check in on his family? Because as we know, in many emergency situations, seconds can matter. Instead, they are forced to wait for Chris to arrive to unlock the door.
And then walked in the house and nothing was vanished. Nothing was here. I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nobody was here.
What's your wife's name?
Shanann. Shanann.
What's your kids' name?
Bella and Celeste.
How do you spell Celeste?
Celeste.
How old are your daughters?
4, and Bella's 4, Celeste is 3.
And so, how many times did you try calling her?
I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times just to say, what's going on? Like after I called her and texted her once, it's like maybe she was just busy. Like she had just gotten back. Like everybody's probably calling her from her trip. She just got back from Arizona, and I figured she was just busy. But when her friend showed up, that's what it was like. It registered like, all right, this isn't right.
When he was asked his children's names, he closed his eyes briefly with what looked to be a pained expression, just for a second, as if he was recalling something unpleasant. He's seen swallowing hard or gulping many times, which is indicative of someone who's very nervous. When you're lying under pressure, such as being interrogated or questioned, it increases your body's production of adrenaline, which then causes increased saliva production. And because of this extra saliva, a person will often swallow hard or even clear their throat to get rid of it.
Do you think she just took off? Do you think?
I mean, right now I don't even want to just throw anything out there. I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. But I mean, could she just taken off? I don't know. But if somebody has her and they're not safe, I want them back now. That's what's in my head. If they're safe right now, they're gonna come back. But if they're not safe right now, that's the not knowing part. If they're not safe, last night I had every light in the house on. I was hoping that I would just ran over by the kids running in the door and just barrel rushing me, but it didn't happen. And it was just a traumatic night trying to be here.
His statements do little to portray any concern that one would expect him to feel, as there aren't any notable emotions coming from him. Many people, including Shanann's family, grew concerned after watching this interview. To the people that knew Chris, they could tell something was off. He is way too calm and emotionally flat. He almost repeats himself about them not being safe, but then he realizes his mistake and switches it up by talking about the trauma that he supposedly felt being alone in the empty house the night before, not knowing where or what happened to them.
I'm going to ask some kind of tough questions about your relationship with your kids.
My kids are my life. I mean, those smiles light up my life. And this, last night, during, when they usually eat dinner, it was just I miss them. I miss telling them, hey, you got to eat that or you're not going to get your dessert, and just you're not going to get your snack after. I miss that. I miss them, cuddle up on their couches. They have a Minnie Mouse couch and a Sophia couch that they cuddle up on and watch, Bubble Guppies or something. And it was just it was tearing me apart last night, and I needed that. I needed that last night. And for nobody to be here last night and to go into their rooms and know that I wasn't going to turn the rain machines on. And I know that I wasn't going to turn their monitor on. And know I wasn't going to kiss them to bed tonight. That's why last night was just horrible. I couldn't do it. I want everybody to just come home. Like, wherever they're at, come home. That's what I want.
When the reporter tells Chris that he's going to ask some tough questions, you see that he starts to suck on his lips. This is a behavior that can be seen in a person that's lying, or at the very least, trying to prevent the wrong words from escaping their mouths. The smiling that he expresses when saying that his kids are his life doesn't feel appropriate, and he almost laughs when talking about his daughter's meal and bedtime routines. He appears to be at a loss for words at one point, stammering to fill the awkwardness of the moment by saying he just wants everyone to come home.
Where was she gone for? She came back Sunday. You said at 2 at night.
Yeah, because her flight got delayed from Arizona because of like other storms around the nation. So she's supposed to get home at like 11. She got home at like 1:48. She got in bed about 2.
What was she going for? Like family trip or what?
It was a Thrive direct sales. It was a local event that was down there between a bunch of leaders in the company.
And that day she was back. I mean,
I left work early that morning, like 5:15, 5:30. So like she barely got into bed pretty much.
And this might be a tough question, but did you guys get into an argument before she left?
It wasn't like an argument. We had an emotional conversation, but I'll leave it at that. But I just want them back. I just want them to come back. And if they're not safe right now, that's what's tearing me apart. Because if they are safe, they're coming back. But if they're not, this has got to stop. Like, somebody has to come forward.
When asked if a fight had taken place before Shanann disappeared, he readily says, well, we had an emotional conversation, but I'll just leave it at that, which most people would know that that's code for fight. He didn't have time to think that answer out, and he must not have had a suitable answer prepared ahead of time, just in case he was asked that kind of question. Whether he intended to say that or not, that's hard to say. He was smart enough to know that that kind of information would garner serious skepticism, so it's probably more likely that it just slipped out. And I think he realized what he did, so as a way to kind of steer focus away from what he just said, in an odd way, he just blurts out, I just want them back. If they're not safe, this has got to stop. Somebody has to come forward. Chris and Shanann's neighbors had cameras on their house, and Chris and Shanann themselves had a Ring doorbell cam. Police were quickly able to prove that Shanann and the girls never left that house, and there was no intruder who came in the house and kidnapped them, because either scenario would have been picked up on somebody's camera. The neighbor's camera directly next to Chris's house is recording 24/7, and it picks up Chris partially backing his truck up into the garage early Monday morning. He would go on to tell detectives that he only did that so he could load his tools and his lunchbox for work. To most people that would sound reasonable, but to anyone that knew Chris, they knew he never pulled his truck into the driveway. Just for the simple reason is the girls' bedrooms were just above the garage, so the girls would be woken up by this loud truck pulling in or out, so that's why he never did it. Also, I read that they did this to prevent any stains from ending up on the driveway. So the fact that he does this on the very day that his family disappear, and you can't make out everything that he's doing as he walks back and forth from the garage to the truck, all of this is highly suspicious.
You spoken to her family, like her parents?
Yeah, they've been in constant contact, like every hour. I mean, everybody back in North Carolina and the East Coast. I mean, from Maine to Florida.
What is her parents saying to you? Like,
they're just like if they need to get on a flight, just let them know, because I mean they feel helpless right now because they're on the opposite side of the country. I mean, Colorado is, I mean, you can't just drive around and look. I mean, it's just like you wouldn't really know what you're looking for. That's what the cops pretty much told me. That first day I was like, I want to get out and drive around. They said, you wouldn't know what to look for.
Shanann's parents, who live a few states away, desperately wait for word about her and the girls. Upon entering the house, they find Shanann's purse that contains her daughter's EpiPen, and she would never leave home without that medication. They also find Shanann's phone, which has been powered off. Her wedding ring is also located. Something to note, Chris and Shanann's bed is missing its top sheet, its pillows, and its blanket. Chris says that a policeman told him that it would be a waste of his and Shanann's family family's time to come down there to search for them. He also states that this cop told him that you can't just drive around town looking for them. You wouldn't know what you're looking for. If not for that information, Chris says that he would have been out there searching for them. These statements are quite concerning and seem to go against logic, because the more people that would be out there looking for Shanann and the girls, the better.
Last couple questions. What does law enforcement, what have the police or the sheriffs or your neighbors, what's police saying to you?
Right now, what they're doing right now is with the canines in the sense. I think this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing they've done so far, because yesterday the Frederick Police Department did all the searching of the house and tried to gather whatever information they could. And with the detectives, officers, and sergeants, and today it's, obviously with all the activity that's around, there's a lot going on around here, and I really hope that all of this can lead to something positive.
What did your neighbors, did they see anything? Did your neighbors see anything?
No, like the police department went door to door asking, like, cameras and everything, just like nothing.
And
I would be concerned, even as an outsider, hearing this husband and father talk about hoping all that the police are doing will lead to something positive when he's discussing the fate of his family. He's too calm, his words are too casual. He may not even realize that he's exhibiting physical signs that he's lying, such as the hard swallowing, the sucking of his lips, and the inappropriate smiling.
my last question, if you have any of them, so feel free to step in. My last question is, if your wife can see this, if she can watch these, what would you like to tell your wife and your kids?
Shanann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring her back.
That's it. I can take that mic off you.
Chris's plea for his family's safe return is quite dull and uninspiring. He looks and sounds completely detached, and did you notice while he's making this plea, he's shaking his head no subtly the entire time. This is also another way that a person can subconsciously expose that they're not telling the truth. He gave a second interview to a different news station that day, essentially repeating what he said in this interview. He does make one pretty big slip up though when he says,
Bella was going to start kindergarten next Monday, and they were just getting ready to start back again.
There's no denying that he's referring to his daughters in the past tense. Chris Watts was later convicted of his wife and daughter's murders and is now serving life in prison without parole. He would initially confess just the day after this interview that he killed Shanann in a fit of rage because Shanann supposedly smothered both of the girls as a form of retaliation for his affair. No one believed him though. He would eventually confess to being responsible for all three of their murders. He never gave a clear reason why he did this to his family. The truth is probably too heinous for him to even admit, so it's easier for him to stick to the story that he doesn't really know why he did it. How did Chris ever arrive at being okay with ending his family's lives? This is a question that many fail to understand. By most accounts, he was a terrific father and appeared to be a good husband. After several years of marriage, though, he strayed and fell in love with another woman. It's tragic, but it happens. Shanann was 5.5 months pregnant with their third child, a little boy that she planned to name Nico, when he strangled her to death. He says that Monday morning when Shanann came home from the airport, he told her about the affair and how he did want to separate. He claims that Shanann threatened that he would never see his kids again. Whether that's true or not, Chris says that that's what sent him into a murderous rage. He got on top of her and strangled her with his own 2 hands. Many people believe the murders were planned well in advance, and Chris even alluded in a later interview to the possibility that he had thought about doing it days prior. The struggle awoke their eldest daughter Bella, and she walked into her parents' bedroom, stunned to see her mother's lifeless body on the bed. She then watched as her father wrapped her in a bedsheet, and then he carried/dragged her down the stairs through the garage and put her on the back floor of his truck. He then put both girls in the back seat, with their mother clearly visible, their feet dangled just above her. He told the girls that Mommy mommy was sick, but that she would be okay. Chris would pull out of the driveway between 5:15 and 5:30 a.m. The drive to his work took between 45 and 60 minutes, so he had all that time to contemplate what he had done and the things that he was still planning on doing. Even with this time to reflect, he still chose to do what he did. Upon reaching his job site, he would remove Shanann from the truck and bury her in a shallow grave. He then turned his attention to his girls that were still in the back seat of the truck. He would use something that would make the girls feel safe, something special to them, which was a favorite blanket that they always took with them. And he used that blanket to smother both of his girls, starting with Cece. Poor little Bella bore witness to all of it. He would put the girls' bodies into 2 large oil tanks that were on the work site. He willfully and single-handedly obliterated everything that he and Shanann had built together over the past 8 years. With no financial obligations to hold him back, he must have thought that he'd go on to live a new and happy life with his mistress. Chris had a lot of people fooled. I would dare to go as far as even saying that he had everybody fooled. Shanann thought that she knew the man that she fell in love with and married. She was convinced and truly believed that Chris was the best thing that ever happened to her. She was aware that their marriage was having problems those last few months, but she didn't think it was anything that they couldn't handle. But sadly, she couldn't have known all that her husband was up to. He had grown cold and distant towards Shanann as the affair became more serious. Shanann did everything that she could think of to mend and save their marriage, but Chris had already selfishly decided that he wanted to start over with a new woman, and he must not have wanted any strings or financial obligations to hold him back. Sometimes you never really know someone, no matter how well you think you know them. I don't know how Chris thought that he would get away with this. Perhaps because he had so many people fooled, he thought that he would have droves of people standing up for him, telling the police what a good guy he was and how he'd never hurt his family. Maybe he thought that would be enough. This case has always fascinated me. It's still really difficult to make sense of what happened after reading and watching everything I could about this case. I always wanted to do a video on it, so here it is, and I hope you all enjoyed it. I would really love to know what your thoughts are on this case and this video. What did you think about his behavior in this news interview? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. If you have a case that you'd like me to cover, let me know. I love to take requests. Anyhow, I want to thank you all once again for watching this video and supporting my channel. And last but not least, stay safe out there, people.